Hello and welcome back. Today we are in the Cessna Mustang by RW Design, and we are at version 1.2 as far as I remember. By the auto update, the changelog, we don't know why. It seems you can click it, but it's not being shown, at least from what I can see. Not even if I click it up there. So that's it. We are here at Gran Canaria Islands, and we are going to make a flight over to Lanzarote. And over at Lanzarote, we are using the freeware scenery of Lanzarote that was released a week ago, and I did a small review of. So that's our destination. But let's get inside the cockpit. We got a few passengers on board already. This small aircraft, and we are going to open up the small menu here. I have disabled the rain effects. It has quite a impact on the frame rate, and even though the frame rate isn't that high in this particular aircraft, you have to know, even though it runs smooth, but compared to some other add-ons that is actually also heavy, this is a bit more heavy, you can say. Okay, so let's get it up and running here. The aircraft, we haven't programmed any flight plan or such. We are going to do that in a moment when we have the engines running, so that we can get over on the main engines instead, and as well as it's not going to take that long to program our flight, as it's just a short hop over to Lanzarote Airport. Okay, and we are going to climb up today to around 12,000 feet. There we go. I can't remember if it's even or odd altitudes down here. I forgot to check that on the charts. I apologize for that. Yeah, let's get it ready, shall we? Beacon comes on, lab lights as required, and starting engine number 2. Here. If we can get it to run here, then we have to. Okay, that's a bit odd because it should have been cut off. That's a bit interesting. Okay, and that's something a bit odd with this aircraft. When you actually set it for cold dark status, the aircraft, the buttons and such is not in the right places and such. Else you should get in and set them accordingly before you do anything else. But since we are starting we just used the option from inside X-plane instead of shutting down the aircraft completely. from the previous flight, because then it would be in the right areas as it should be. Okay, let's start left engine. And another thing to note here is that sound for this particular aircraft is on the weak side, you can say. The sound isn't that high. Can try to go in and see if we can increase the volumes here. See if we get just a bit more. There we go. Now we can hear the aircraft a bit more, but there isn't generally not that much sound, but that could be quite right for those smaller jets, because that's often something that they tend to make them less noisy and such for the comfort of those more business guys category of customers, you can say. Okay. Start zooming out here. Yeah. And now we can switch over to the flight plan, and we can go in and start inserting some waypoints. Do note that mouse scroll wheel support is not working here. It is only mouse clicking. Okay, and let's see, because I have a waypoint I wanted to fly to here at the end of the runway 03 at Lanzarote, and it was CG03Y. So let's see if we can get that set in. And I keep using the mouse wheel because that's what we are used to. That is actually working, but it's not in this aircraft. There we go. Faster to save. Okay, then it's gonna be this way, and there we go, and we can hit enter. There we go. Now it would be flying to that particular waypoint here, as we would expect, over by Lanzarote, and then we can just insert Lanzarote, and I got too far. There we go. Alright. R, yes, enter, boom, there we go. And then we want to go up again and say to the aircraft we want to fly directly, or I could say activate leg, enter, there we go. Because we don't want to fly here to Gran Canaria Airport, as it's where we are going to fly from. So now it should be set, and we are ready in a moment. Just set up the takeoff flaps here, left and right generators. It should be on. See, reset and on. Let's see if we can get. There we go. have a few issues with my mouse here, so it keeps triggering buttons even though it should not. So it's a bit of a issue there. Okay, and for this particular aircraft, I can do a mix of using my own autopilot project. My own autopilot project works by default out of the box with stock coatings of X-plane. So that's basically what I built my autopilot system around. But in this aircraft, some things can't be adjusted. I can't adjust altitude as well as airspeed. And I can demonstrate why, because if I jump up here and say the aircraft, in this particular aircraft, there is no button for adjusting our airspeed, because in this particular aircraft the vertical speed knob works also for adjusting speed, mainly because the aircraft does not have auto throttle or such. It is only created for the FLC, flight level change, where you can set and give an airspeed. Another thing you would note is how it would jump in the airspeed, and it seems to be some kind of conversion between going from vertical speed and the airspeed. So if I press the speed knob, you can see something weird is going on over here by my autopilot project. That actually jumps to quite high instead of starting out by around 0, but since we pressing the speed, you can see it gives it this kind of weird indication. You can see the airspeed and the vertical speed, they are adjusted at the same time, but not by one value at a time. You can see it is like 4 knots at a time and not 1 knot at a time. So I can't say I want to fly specifically 80 knots. You can see it's either 78 or 82 knots. And it gets a bit more confusing when you start switching over to the Mach values. So, but that's some quirkiness that we can't do that much about. I can luckily adjust the heading and the course as far as I remember, and that's it. And then of course activate the modes, but that's it. Let's get this aircraft in the air, not here on the ground. It requires quite a bit of thrust in order to get the aircraft to move here on the ground. Let's set it up for taxi light, and seatbelt sign should be on, of course. I don't know why. You can see it. It seems to trigger the manipulator for adjusting, but it works very odd from time to time, and that's a bit annoying, as well as some has noticed that now I was talking about the vertical speed knob, that sometimes for knobs in general, it could sometimes be that if you pull it in one direction it would increase and sometimes it would decrease. So it seems to be some kind of manipulator problem with how it works. Okay, but we are slowly taxiing over here to the main runway. You can see it's really rapidly stops when I set the throttles to idle. It really does. And I'm just gonna set things up here so we should be ready for our main flight here. But it is a nice little plane, even though they are some given things we could have hoped was in another way, but that's how it is. Okay, and I'm just gonna depart this way. I know the wind. But here we go. And I can slowly rotate here, as you can see. And it really climbs right now. It has detents, as you can see there. Now it's set for takeoff. Now I can set the climb. Now I have set climb power, and the landing here is up. And as you can see, it really climbs fast. Now I know that I have set the airspeed for the climb mode, so it's not that quickly. If you just leave it in the full throttle, like here for takeoff, you see how the airspeed just increases quite nicely. Let's get the flaps up. And the nose comes down again, and we can then start trimming the aircraft. And then we can jump over and switch on flight director. We can set the flight level change here. As we have set the cruise altitude. Let's see what it triggered. It triggered 157 knots. Go, and 5,000 feet we can go to standard parameter. And what I did here was I was using my own little script for setting the altimeter. That would set for standard if I press in one combination, and it would set for the same value as simulator is displaying at the moment I press the button. Okay, and I see here nav. There we go. So we start flying the main route. And the autopilot engaged. You can see it's quite aggressive when it actually is engaged. Normally an autopilot, from what I have seen, would not be that aggressive. It's more gentle, and that's also mainly because you can say if it reacts too quickly, if you have let's say a very strong wind or such, it might interfere too much that it would overcorrect and such. But also in general it would make more smooth adjustments. Because in reality, as well for the airspeed, here it seems pretty steady, goes up and down a bit, but in reality it's a bit different. Cruise power set. If you have seen a lot of videos as well as flying in reality, you would see that the aircraft would actually the airspeed indicator would move a bit slightly to display. Our instruments. Let's see. Standby instruments. There we go. We forgot to set these standby instruments. Okay. But we got a nice temperature, so icing should not be a problem at the moment. High airflow or the fan, usually. But in general, it's a nice small private jet, you can say here. Right now we got 2 passengers. We can of course adjust it by the weight and balance here. We can get 2 guys as well here, and in the cockpit as well. I'm just demonstrating it now for those that might not have seen my review of the aircraft, even though it's just me, but yeah. And as you can see, there seems to be a few glitches in the modeling. Like it seems there's coming some kind of lighting in here, like there is some small areas where the light can get through, but could also be resistance. Yeah, okay. Might not be easy. And sometimes the lighting is a bit weird. And you can turn on the lighting individually if you like. And right now, airspeed is to the good side at the moment. But nothing alarming as such. Okay. And let's remove some persons here again. You can add cargo and fuel as you like. So, and you also got checklists in here for specific things. I did not use it, but it is there if you like to. And the reason I also don't tend to use the checklist and such, it's basically because I try to get out to some of those people that say flying airliners and jets and such in general could be a bit tricky, but by my videos I actually try to demonstrate that it isn't that difficult to make a flight from shutdown to start, to a running aircraft and doing a complete flight. It could be that it's not completely as you would do in reality, but since the simulation of the particular aircraft is different, some really simulates everything, and then of course it can be a bit tricky. But a lot of add-ons isn't built so that it has too many consequences, like it would have in reality. So that's my main thoughts here, and where we try to get some of those people that just want to jump in and fly and such, and is a bit afraid of getting over to some more complex aircrafts, because in reality it isn't that different or difficult to make that jump, depending on which add-on aircraft you actually decide to buy. And for instance, this one isn't that difficult. The only negative things I have to say about it is that I really would have liked that the autopilot for more of the general stuff like the airspeed and vertical speed has worked a bit better, and it would have worked with the default codings of X-plane. But again, I also know that it has some limitations, because I know some of the key things that in X-plane could be better, because the autopilot in X-plane isn't always that great. So I know why developers are doing other stuff, and it is fine as long as it seems to work fine. But for this aircraft, it's in a category where I would say, well, it might be for those that's more into jump in and fly and such, as well as the operation of entering flight plan. It is in fact easier to do in the default aircraft that ships with X-plane, by the G1000 that actually got in here. So from that perspective, default X-plane is a bit easier to make adjustments to the G1000, and that's some of the sad thing, because this is just a step above the stock aircraft in some aspects, and in other it isn't. But out here seems nice. We're now getting closer to Fuerteventura, and soon we would start our descent into Lanzarote Airport. And the aircraft really looks nice. Let's take a short look outside as well here on the main airframe. And yes, I know the shadowing and such isn't that great, but that's basically due to my machine, not the particular aircraft. It's because of how my settings have to be set in order to run it quite okay. Because I don't got a lot of money for buying a new graphics card and such, because the system I'm running is quite fairly for the CPU and such. It runs quite fairly. It is more graphical thing that might be the bottleneck for how things are. But of course, if you're running a heavy add-on, it would always affect the performance. But for this particular aircraft now, you can see we are in the frame rate of 50. If I take, let's say, Tunis Eversafe 19, I would be around 50, 60, sometimes 70 frames per second. And then try to see how much programming there is in that aircraft compared to this one. But again, I know T1000 stuff and such is quite heavy, or can be, but look at the stock aircraft of X-plane, those run quite okay, so so that's it. And basically a lot of add-on short are taking, you would be able to see how your frame rate increases just by shutting down the aircraft. So the displays is not showing and all that kind of stuff. Of course that would give you some less performance impact, but that's just demonstrating how heavy an aircraft actually can be. Okay, but now we want to start our descent here to Lanzarote Airport. It's actually a bit. Let's try to use the vertical speed mode here. Right now it says minus 200 feet. Let's get it down to around 1600 feet at the moment. And let's see how it goes. See how it goes, I should say. Sorry. And of course this that was stupid there. I apologize. And now that's one of the annoying things here, that I actually can't see that much when I'm adjusting values. Of course I could have set it from over here. Well, okay, I can't do that from over there. It's inoperative. That's a bit of a shame. And a bit annoying again. I forgot that someone actually have mentioned it, that you can't adjust the altitude from the stock buttons. Primary flank display here. Because you can actually see that it opens the stock X-plane pop-up window, but in reality you don't got that knob there, so that's basically why you can't do it. And now we get a nice view here of Fuerteventura. The island here of Fuerteventura. Looks very nice here from with this photorealistic. And when you first see that, you would say, well, if that was the entire X-plane simulator, well, then it would be amazing. But we also know that we would need some SSDs that would be enormous, as well as the time to download it, as well as just think that right now X-plane is on what is it, 8 disk or such. I can see here. Yeah, it is 8 DVDs, and that's just for around, what is it? They are saying here. Okay, that's not even noted the specification here. It doesn't mean that the old X-plane 10 was something like 60 or 80 gigabytes of data. And I know that some of the regions here is around 2 to 3 gigabytes for just 1 or 2 islands. So then you can go figure how much it would require for the whole world. Even though it can look great, but it could also look a bit hard at some aspect. Of course, sorry, from the high altitude it looks greater than by the lower altitudes. And here we go. One thing that I just noted before that I did not mention here was actually the weight and balance. It is a bit funny that I can say it. 2 pilots in here, but I can't remove the pilot in the left-hand seat. Could be that you will do some training as co-pilot. But anyway, that's just a minor thing there. Everything seems in the green, seems nice, and we're coming up here to our waypoint here. But let's see here, and we actually have set up the frequency for the approach here. You can also see it coming here now. I can get here, I can tune it in for the radius, as you can see. So we should be able to switch over here for the oops, my mistake, there we go. Because now it should become active here in a moment. For the approach. Now I can't remember, because as far as I remember there was a small problem that I was seeing once, because now I'm talking too much again. There was an issue I found Now I can't remember what the main issue was. It was actually something that I felt was very important that actually ruined one of my flights not that long ago. And it was actually when I switched. I was flying and via GPS, and was it something like it was switching over to intercept the approach, and that caused issues for us. I'll set up the approach here. Let's see if the aircraft also captured. I don't. No, it's not. So I need to jump over here. And let's decelerate here. Now idling thrust is set. A bit foggy here. And let's see. Oops. Let's get it down there. Actually captured it. Now I should be able to set up, go around altitude, even though it's in a blind spot there. There we go, now we are aligned for the approach. But what I was mentioning, I mean, was this particular aircraft I was flying and came into a few problems with. But nevertheless, right now we are on stable approach here, and now I switch off the autopilot system here in order to do a manual flight here, and I insert a bit of flaps here, as you can see, so we can slow down here, get the landing gear down, as well as getting in some flaps here, and then release the speed brakes here. There we go. Got the airspeed down. That's nice. But really be careful with the inputs here, because it is a bit sensitive here. Even though it's not the worst. Okay, here we go. Coming in for our nice landing here, and let's get down here so we can taxi off the first taxiway here. Come on. There we go, nice and smooth. And there are, of course, no thrust reversals of this aircraft. We can only deploy the speed brakes. And here we go. Landed nicely here at Lanzarote Airport. Now we can show you, if you did not see Lanzarote Airport in my previous video, then you have the opportunity to see it right now. Now we are off the runway here, and we can switch off the yeah, I forgot the lighting. So we don't switch that off. I apologize. It's because I'm talking too much. Straight ahead we got the military area, and here to the right we got the main terminal, and if we continue we would get to general aviation. And the nice feature here of the 1000 is that we actually, this cable zoom in so we've got a nice map here. Let's get it center. There we go. There we go. And now we can see where it actually is on the map. The only thing we are missing right now is actually a rendition of which taxiways we are on at the moment, as well as a runway. You can see the aircraft really stops rapidly when I decrease the thrust. It really requires a bit of thrust here in order to taxi. Now we can practice flaps. And here we go. We need to get to the farthest end here, because first off here we got the main terminal where we would arrive if you come from other parts of Europe and such, or the world, I should say. The other terminal you see over there, here behind, that you could see just a second ago, is the main terminal where all the local airliners that flies around the Canarian Islands and such would fly to would be over at that terminal. And behind that we got the general aviation. That we are getting closer to now. But the scenery really looks nice. It really does. And this freeway is highly recommended because it is a very nice standard they got here. General aviation is there. You can see Avianca General, but we can actually one park here because we are not general aviation as such. We are more business jet, light jet here. So now we're just going to park here. You can see it's a parking spot for a large aircraft. But anyway, we're going to park right here and call it the flight from Gran Canaria to Lanzarote. I hope you enjoyed the flight with us today, and hopefully you are able to decide if you would like to try out this scenery as well as the aircraft. One general note for the aircraft is that I really like a lot of the things that is in the aircraft. It is just a few quirkiness here and there that actually makes it a bit annoying from time to time. So that's it, and you can fly from A to B safely, and really one of the benefits here is the P1000 it makes it a lot easier than the old stylish GPS. But that's how it is, even though they're the quickness, so that if I just had the stock G1000, I probably might be a bit more happy, or as some has mentioned, an easier way to enter stuff into the G1000, because it's a bit quickness that it is mouse clicking only. So that's it. But thank you for watching, and hope to see you again soon. Bye bye.